Now we're looking at the Maltego Community Edition interface. And the first screen that we're going to look at is the transforms screen. So we'll learn about transforms as we go throughout here. And I'm going to install several of them. But transforms are essentially a means of gathering information from a particular perspective. So some of you can see here like Shodan. Shodan is a repository of machine data and IP addresses. And we can also build a map. So what we're going to do with Maltego is look at something called entities. So you see something on the left called an entity palette. And it's kind of like when you watch one of these crime scene shows and the detective goes up to a whiteboard and they start drawing out relationships between suspects and targets and pulling together and mapping pieces of information. This is a real similar concept. Now, we can certainly do that in list form, but to visualize it and to have tools that can import data automatically and create the relationships really speeds up the time for us to put together a really good footprint of our target's environment. Now, you can see some pretty exotic things on the left-hand side, such as nuclear weapons, but we're going to focus on simple things such as DNS domains. And in this example, what I want to do is I'm going to pull over a domain entity, and Paterva is the name of the vendor that creates this tool. There's a free edition and a paid edition. We're utilizing the free edition, which limits your results to 12 results per transform. So I'm going to take google.com. And what I want to do is run one of the transforms that will collect any top-level domains that are associated with google.com. I want to start building out a map. So I'm going to find a transform. Here it is, toDomain, which is find other TLDs, and we're going to run that and see what it comes up with. So Google's a good example. It's a large multinational. So we run that transform, and you can see that we have quite a few top-level Google domains, google.af, google.ae, and so forth. And so now we're building out a map, and we can start drilling down into any of these top-level domains. But before we do that, I just want to show you that you can change the layout in several different modes, blocks, parent, child, and this becomes important the more objects that we end up putting on the screen, because you can literally have millions of objects here. So the next thing I want to do is to barrel down into one of these top-level domain names and get some more specific information. You can see that there are quite a few transforms here, but let's find one that will do a quick lookup of the website. So let's find a website that happens to be mapped to that domain. So we run the transform. You can see that the website that's mapped to google.ac is www.google.ac. Not a huge surprise. Now, we can keep digging and we can keep running transforms against these entities. And so if we right-click on the google.ac domain name, now we might want to get down to the IP address level. And we can do that or either enumerate a website for this particular google.ac domain name. So let's just go ahead and enumerate the IP address. Now granted, we could do this from the command line. We can utilize tools such as whois and DNS. But remember, our goal is to create maps, and we can map entities and people and put together some pretty compelling footprint documentation for our customers. Now if you right-click here, you can see that we have an IP address, and we can continue barreling down and gathering more detail. And so another transform that we can run is Shodan. So Shodan is kind of like the Google of machine information. And so Shodan has information specific to that IP address. And if we zoom in and scroll down, we can actually see information about the services, and we can see the location of the data center from a latitude-longitude perspective. We can see it's port 80. We can see that it's utilizing autonomous system number 15169, and so an AS system is essentially a routing zone on the internet. And so here's quite a bit of information that we're gathering here, and you can continue to build this out. So just think, in a few minutes we've built out this type of information. We can also grab entities in the entity palette that represent people, and we can start conducting social networking transforms and really connect the dots on this information.